All right, welcome everybody to a special episode of Round the Fire with Kingsview Safaris. This is an episode that has definitely been a long time in the making and one I've been itching to do. And as you can see, we're in quite a special place here. As I said, this episode is one that it's pretty unique and special for a lot of reasons, and we're going to dive into that now. But I am extremely excited to welcome my guest, even though I am at his house. So I should rather say thank you very much for having me as opposed to welcome. But Philip, thank you very much for doing this, and you have an absolutely incredible place.
Thank you, John. I'm sure glad to have you over as always. And yeah, it's kind of a fun place up here at the Trophy Room, our guest lodge we call it. And it's a place I always tell new people that come up and said, well, you get to come see my interior decorating skills. And so they start laughing because they kind of have an idea of what we're talking about. And then they walk in here and get to see these high ceilings that are pretty much full. We've got a couple more spots that are going to get filled up here in the next month, and then I'm not sure what we're going to do, Jono, but it's been a lot of fun. And like you always like to say, there's a story behind every one of them. And so, yeah, you could spend days in here just chatting. So it is fun to have people over and just hang out, and there's always some questions that come up, and that's always good fun. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. We actually you hosted myself, my family a couple of weeks ago, and we had an amazing braai, some incredible lamb chops, and the kids were here and they were running around looking at everything. And when I left this morning, my daughter said, "Dad, where are you going?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to Uncle Philip's trophy room to do an interview." And she goes, "Dad, it's a trophy house. It's not a room." So
That's funny.
yeah, she kind of put me on tracks there, but it is an incredible place, and as you rightly so, there is so many great stories behind it. I love the way that you've done everything here. And since the last time we did an episode, I think it was episode 29.
Wow.
So it was a while ago. I was obviously in South Africa, and now it's amazing how things happen in the world, but we're kind of in a way neighbors now from the last episode we did, now that I've moved to San Angelo.
That's what's been so funny, if y'all will remember, Jono took a little hiatus and we didn't know where he was. Well, he was moving to Texas. And then he came on and did a short pod saying, I'm moved to Texas and I just want to let y'all know. And then he said San Angelo, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And so I went and emailed him immediately, and then come to find out one of the ranches he helps take care of is right next door. And so he moved all the way from the Eastern Cape to be my neighbor here in Water Valley, Texas. And so, yeah, we've had a fun relationship and glad to be basically neighbors now and really get along well.
Just shows how good that episode was. I had to come all the way to move here to get close to
All
you.
the way over here. But yeah, lots happened since then. There's
Yeah.
been a lot of great hunts, a lot of neat stories over the years, and I'm very fortunate to get to go a few times a year and go on some great adventure. And so, yeah, that's what it's all about, and it's what I love to do.
Yeah, I'd highly recommend anybody that's listening to maybe this episode for the first time, please shoot back to episode 29, listen to Philip's stories there. He did some incredible hunts. There's obviously the movie that he was a part of, Trophy, which was incredible. I kind of don't want to repeat a lot of that stuff because there is so much more that's happened that I'd love to get into. In the past episode, there's obviously the Rhino, there's Lord Darby Elands, there's trips, it's all over. It's a fantastic episode, and I know that this one's going to be just as exciting. So yeah, since we've actually last spoken, you've been to Zim, you've been on a leopard hunt, you've been all over the place. Why don't you pick one and we'll kind of roll from there? One of your favorite hunts?
Yeah, everybody always wants to hear about the leopard. We won't talk about the first leopard. We've already talked about that one, but this one was just, I had that leopard hunt years ago that some people will remember me telling stories about or whatnot, or read an article about that was a hound hunt. We were actually charged by the cat before we could shoot. And anyway, that's a whole nother story. But bottom line is it was a pretty nerve-wracking experience. And I said, I really just want to go hunt a leopard out of a blind like a civilized person. And so I kind of joked with that for a while. And then it happened. I was taking a group to hunt buffalo primarily in Zimbabwe in the Zambezi Valley, and there happened to be leopard on quota, and I said, guys, if you don't mind, I would sure like to hunt another leopard with you. And they said, okay, but it was on a 10-day. I did the pre-baiting, but it was on a 10-day buffalo hunt, which is not a good idea because that's not enough time. But I thought, no, we're going to roll the dice. These guys are great cat hunters. I was hunting with York Murray, and we just got there and it was just cold. I mean, there wasn't any tracks. They'd pre-baited and there was just nothing going on for about 5 or 6 days.
Is that right?
I mean, there was nothing And then about day 7, we got some activity, but mostly younger cats. And then day 8, we sat on a big cat. And in those communal areas, you can hunt after dark, and so you never know what kind of time frame.
That's interesting, right?
And so we get in there, and we were getting that blind early because he was a pretty quiet area. He might come in the daylight. He might come right at dusk. We get in there early, middle of the afternoon or something, and we'd been sitting there 7 hours, and the cat was in the vicinity, and somehow I was scooted around in my chair, stretching or something and making noise and scare the cat off.
Oh,
I didn't realize the cat was so close. No, I mean, I wasn't trying to make noise,
Sure.
but I made a mistake. And so the PH says, the apprentice PH was with us. And he tells him, take my gun, go walk straight down towards the bait, get on the little 2-track road, and start whistling and making noise, and walk back to the vehicle. And he got so frightened that he forgot to whistle until he was like 100 yards away. And so we're sitting there. I had a videographer and the professional hunter and myself in a blind, and the apprentice was with us, and he left, and we're all sitting there, nothing. He got so frightened that he forgot to whistle until he was way down the road. Because there's a lot of elephants. The fear was elephants. It's
Sure,
not that the
yeah.
leopard's going to get him.
Yeah.
It's that you were walking in the dark, you can't hear them, you can't see them, and all of a sudden, boom, you're right there. So he took the gun, but one of the guns. But anyway, so obviously, he didn't do what he was told. We were going to fool the cat into thinking we left. Didn't work. So we waited about another hour and we left.
Yeah.
We called the vehicle, who came making plenty of noise. Cat knew we left. The camera showed the cat came 40 minutes later.
Wow, 40 minutes.
So if he'd have whistled,
Yep,
we'd have had the
we would
cat.
have come back. Amazing.
So the guy was right. He said, okay. The PH was mad at me, justifiably so. But 7 hours sitting there, I made a noise. Okay, my fault. He was mad. I mean, and we're friends, but he was mad. And I don't blame him. I was mad too. Well, he says, okay, we get in the truck. He's like, all right, here's what we're going to do. Come back in the morning. We're going to move that blind and 50 yards up the hill, and we're going to leave kind of a faux blind, a fake blind, if you will, just some sticks where we were sitting.
Right, okay,
Back it up, and it was backed up. It was about 100 yards.
okay.
For a leopard bait, that's pretty far. Anyway, we sit this second night, which is day 9 of a 10-day. So we're out of time here. And sure enough, the cat comes. He did come after dark, but not real late. And he comes and he spends about 30 minutes investigating the fake blind.
Did he come right up to it?
He comes right to where our blind was the previous time, sniffs around, goes out, kind of finally comes back, and then he's in the tree, and then he said, when you're ready. And this cat, he knew something was up.
Yeah.
He wasn't feeding very comfortably, and I do have video of that, but it's video from a trail cam.
Okay, right.
We didn't get video of that, but the trail cam video is a close-up, and it's really good. But I had to shoot him sitting. It wasn't the perfect standing shot, but he was sitting and clawing the meat over to him, and I just knew that he didn't have to tell me. I knew this was either my shot or the hunt's over,
Okay.
most likely.
Yeah.
And so the cat really was turning his head back and forth, very nervous. And he's wanting to feed, but he's like, something's wrong here. And so I waited until he was as still as I thought he was going to be, had both paws down, but he was sitting, and I smacked him, and man, that 180 grain Swift Sirocco just turned him off like a light. I mean, just dead. A couple of little guttural growls on the ground, and
That's what you want.
after being charged by a leopard the previous time, that was a welcome sight.
So before, obviously, the leopard arrived, did you and your PH talk about, because sound is now an issue, you don't want to obviously make another noise. Did your PH say, I'll kind of leave it up to you? Or I know some guys tap on the leg, they have little signals. What did you and the PH talk about?
Well, the previous day, what I told him was that, yep, I made a mistake, but we need 2 signals. We need one to push you to the gun to shoot, which is normally a little push on the shoulder, which means get in your gun and get ready to shoot, and then I'll tell you to shoot. But we need another signal, meaning you know whether you've got a light or a thermal or whatever. If you know the cat is right here, I need to know that. I need to know to be extra quiet, because after 7 hours, you know, we can make noises.
Yeah.
Whether on purpose or not. And so I was like, couldn't we have a secondary signal, maybe just a tap on the leg? That all that means is, that doesn't mean move. That just means the cat is right here. The cat is right in our vicinity, so be extra quiet. And so that was my suggestion after my mess up.
Yeah.
But yeah, we discussed all of that and had a good plan. And so when we had the second night, and of course he was pretty happy with himself, because the cat did exactly what he said the cat was going to do. He came and investigated the old blind, the old location, went back, kind of hid for a second, and then boop, up in the tree.
I've listened to a lot of podcasts with PHs that are very good at leopard hunting, and there's two things that I always pick up. First of all, each PH kind of has their own tactics, their own way of doing things, which I find interesting. And secondly, a lot of these guys are very particular about the way they set it up. The right tree, the right blind, the baits, all that type of stuff. And yet, as I said, when you listen to one PH and listen to another, they're kind of very different, but it seems to work for that area. Is that kind of what you picked up too, that these guys are very specific to those areas and how they set up their baits?
Absolutely. From the way that they choose the tree, to the way they hang the bait, to the type of bait, you know, it is area dependent, and each PH has their own way of doing things. And so it's everybody calls it a chess game, and it is, and they've got their plan, and it is fun to see. But you know, the leopard hunt's a pretty miserable hunt. You're just driving around on rough roads, checking trail cameras, and with a bunch of stinky, rotten guts in the back. And one of the things that's remarkable to me, because my life with predators here at the ranch is primarily dealing with coyotes.
Yep.
And so when you look at, say you've got a bait up and you're going to refresh the bait, and maybe they're going to throw some dung with blood and guts or whatever, do the drags, and all the stuff you do to refresh the bait area. And you know, you've got guys just walking around, and you know, they haven't washed their hands. There's no real concern for smell with the cat. And that's just what's amazing to me, because I'm like, you would never get by with a canine, with the canine's nose, tricking them with this situation. Now, the one thing some of them have done, they switched to these trail cams that are Bluetooth.
Okay.
So you could, if you didn't need to refresh the smells of anything, you could drive the Land Cruiser right up to the tree and sit there on your phone, and it would connect, and you could check the pictures without getting out.
Right.
Which I think is cool. And of course, that's where my mind goes. We're trying to not disturb the area.
Yeah.
But it's just different with cats. But to answer your question, they're certainly particular about how they do things. They all have a different way of doing it, and in some cases, they already kind of have their favorite trees. It depends on where you are. You might be in an area where, I think that cat that I shot was out of one of the favorite trees, one of the trees that, you know, from time to time was used as a bait tree. Just happened to be in a good location, happened to be a good tree, decent spot for blind, you know, traditional prevailing winds and that sort of thing. But no, it's very interesting. Yeah, leopard hunting it's very interesting. It's a mental game, but it can be miserable at times, just beating around rough roads, checking trail cameras, but you know, you see interesting things on trail cameras. It's not all just leopards. I mean, it could be hyenas and genet cats and honey badgers. I mean, so yeah, you never know what you're going to get. But
you know, we often talk about preparing for a safari and spending time on the range and getting physically fit and controlling your breathing and everything. And it sounds like for a leopard hunt, you've just got to practice sitting there and being quiet for about 7 or 8 hours without moving.
You don't get much exercise. What you hope is that midday when you're on your trek, maybe there's some plains game to go after or something. You can make a little stalk and get out and get around. But yeah, it can be miserable. But no, I was fortunate to get a nice male leopard there in the Zambezi Valley, and my second leopard in Zimbabwe, and do it like a civilized person out of a blind.
I want to talk about Zimbabwe for a little bit, because you obviously organize some groups that go with you, and you've been a number of times, and you've just recently come back again. But Zimbabwe is always, it's one of those countries where it's obviously a wildlife mecca. It's very sort of traditionally wild and kind of unruly, and the Africa of old, a lot of people talk about big open areas and spaces. But it's also at the same time, for the international hunter coming out, there's a little bit of tendency to worry about the state of the country, the safety, all those types of things. And I was interested to hear when you were telling me that you came back from Zimbabwe, the amount of wildlife that you're starting to see out there, which is fantastic. So obviously a lot of the guys there are doing great jobs protecting the wildlife, and numbers are expanding.
Yes, whether you're in an actual safari area or in a communal area where people live, from what I've seen, I'm sure there's areas that aren't managed well. The places I've been have been well managed. The game populations are all increasing, some of them exponentially so. On that previous hunt I was on, we were in a safari area, which means no people. It's like you're hunting in a national park.
Right.
There's no people. It's well managed by national parks and the outfitter that holds that concession. We saw a lot of game, and we even saw a pangolin one day, which is the rarest animal in Africa. Yeah. But no, Zimbabwe is an interesting dynamic because it does have its struggles, but it is some of the nicest people you'll find in Southern Africa as far as the local people. Very comfortable to be around those people, very nice people, very competent hunters. The trackers and things there are very good people. Just nice to be around. Mm-hmm. And so I don't find those fears. I'm sure you don't want to be out after midnight in Harare.
Yeah.
But you don't want to be out after midnight in Chicago either, or Houston or other places. So, but most of Zimbabwe is very safe, and the wildlife is amazing. It really is. Now, the wildlife is going to vary depending on the area you're in. Yeah. But I'm getting to go to another safari area here in about a month, and so I'm really looking forward to that and getting to go to a different place, somewhat similar to some of the places I've been, but getting into different parts of Zimbabwe. It is a neat place to hunt, but yeah, if you don't want to always listen to the news.
No, definitely not. I recently did a podcast with a gentleman, and his name forgets me now for the moment, but he was speaking about before going to Africa. Obviously, you watch the YouTube videos, you get onto the Facebook groups, you see all the trophy photos, and you kind of build this sense of that you're going to come back with all of these trophies, you're going to hunt all of these animals. And he was telling a story where I think he spent 8 days just going after kudu and couldn't get there, and he didn't get in the end, and he came out very disappointed. And it was very interesting for me because it made me realize that we're in a beautiful trophy room here where there's a lot of animals, but I'm sure there was just as many misses or just as many times when you don't get the animal. And you've recently gone on an elephant hunt, which I'll be interested to hear about. But that is it's a big trip. It's something that a lot of people look forward to a lot of lifetime. And in a place like Zimbabwe, Botswana, where you'd expect lots of elephants, is it right to say that some people might get this notion that they're going to be successful?
Sure, absolutely. Because there are some places in Africa, particularly hunting plains game in certain areas, it's pretty much a slam dunk. If you can shoot, you're going to get something. But there can be other animals that are very difficult. I mean, like you mentioned, I was on an elephant hunt in Zimbabwe in April, and we saw a lot of elephant, but we never saw an old bull. We just never saw one, and that's all we were after. So it was one of those hunts where I do think the person needs to be prepared for failure. But in my mind, I was in Matetse for the first time. Absolutely beautiful area, just a beautiful area. And got to see the pangolin and roan and elephant and kudu and you name it, small game. So I don't look at it as a failure. I knew going in, the people who are successful at taking a nice elephant are certainly the kind of people who know it's a 50-50.
Yeah.
It's maybe not even a 50-50, depending on what you're looking for.
Yeah.
But we didn't find a bull that was old and a true trophy in my mind, and so we didn't take one. It was just a 10-day hunt. It wasn't a proper elephant hunt, which would really need to be 14, 18, 21 days. But it was still a good hunt, but a beautiful area where it had a lot of hills, and it was unusual in that normally you think you're tracking.
Yeah.
You're cutting tracks and taking off just like a buffalo hunt in a lot of places. This place was not like that. It was like here, you just climb a hill in glass. And so you would see all kinds of stuff, and you'd see elephants. But the neat thing is you'd be up high and can't see anything, and all of a sudden you hear a branch break.
And
you're like, oh, they're over here. But the brush was so thick that Mopani in April, is super thick. I mean, it's not a good time for anything but elephant or cats because it's so thick.
Right.
But no, a person does have to be prepared for failure. I mean, probably one of the hunts that I was successful on, but probably had the most heartburn, so to speak, day to day was the Lord Derby eland.
Right, yes.
I was a 13-day hunt, and I didn't get my eland bull until the 10th day.
Ooh.
And we weren't seeing any.
And that's what you do, that's what you're going after was.
And so obviously, if we weren't on any real good fresh tracks or anything, we would take something else that was on my list. Like we did take the Western Savannah buffalo and a roan, and we did get to hunt some. In fact, one day we intentionally went after a cob, which were very plentiful. And so you kind of just shoot one on the day you want to shoot one.
Right.
And the PH was like, he could tell I was getting frustrated. He's like, you know what? We need to take a few hours off and let's just go back over there where we always see the cob, and let's go look for a real nice one. And so we got a cob, we got by chance, a really nice red flank diker.
Oh, nice.
That need to get scored, that life size up there. And the PH kept telling me, French PH, in Cameroon, he kept telling me, you know how hunting is. We're going to see one and we're going to shoot one. And after we shoot one, we're going to see them every day. And I'm telling you, it was the most dramatic answer to that question that I've ever seen. Because not only did we got him on the 10th day, we saw a few that day and got on a good one. He's right there behind you, and we can make a shot of that in a little bit. But not only did we see eland every day after that, they were at times right beside the road like cattle.
No ways.
I am not joking. I mean, it could have hit them with a rock, a whole herd, right here by the truck. And we saw a lion too. There was a lion at dusk in the 2-track. And he wouldn't go anywhere, and they were stopping to take pictures of him like, can you keep driving? He's right here. Big full mane lion was literally right by the truck. And so we saw some cool stuff on there, but really in certainly those 9 days when I didn't see one, that's an expensive hunt, and some of the trophy fees are up front, or at least part of them. And that's one of the things that to me, it is what it is, but it does kind of ruin the hunt a little bit, having all this consternation about how much it cost.
Yeah.
Because yes, I'm the guy who would like to go to Cameroon and go on a hunt and enjoy myself and come home with whatever I come home with. But really, in today's way things are, that's really hard to have that mindset because you paid all this money. And if it was just a daily rate thing, like my elephant hunt, no problem. We're going to go have a nice hunt, and it's on a trophy fee basis. And a lot of hunts are that way, but some of them aren't. And so each person has to prepare themselves for the hunt and make sure they're comfortable with that hunt and possibly coming home with nothing.
Yeah.
But if we prepare ourselves and if we do our due diligence and choose a good outfitter, choose a good time of year to go and do all of that, you're not going to have a failure all the time. You just need to be willing to have one from time to time, is the way I would look at it.
Yeah. And the sort of the things that show up what a really good exceptional PH and outfitter is when those moments of failure are happening. Goodness knows there's been times where I've, for example, going after bushbuck, whatever it may be, and they're in there. You've seen them on 20 previous trips, but your client hasn't.
Yeah.
Your client doesn't know that they're there, and you kind of need to lift that morale, and that's when a good PH will say, let's give it a couple of hours, let's go away, do something. And you know what it's like in an Eastern Cape. It can be incredibly frustrating. And we always talk about safari preparation, and I want to get into the safari day that you had because that was fascinating. But how is it that people can prepare themselves mentally to know that during my hunt, there's going to be a time when I'm going to get frustrated and I need to just calm down and prepare for that? How do they kind of go about that? Guys, I'm going to interrupt this episode for just a quick minute because I've got something cool to announce. As you can see over my shoulder, with this big thunderstorm rolling in, we've had some great rains out here in West Texas. And that usually means one thing. We're going to have a really good hunting season. I've been driving around, checking on the cattle, checking on the fencing, checking everything on the ranch, and I cannot get over how many deer we're seeing. And they are in incredible condition. The buck are ready in their velvet, and it is looking good. So, if you guys are like me, I've always thought it's never too early to plan for hunting season. We are running a little bit of a special at the moment here on the ranch. It is a buck and a doe combo for a weekend hunt. So that's Friday afternoon, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, and then Sunday morning. So if you are looking for a good, honest,
traditional low fence West Texas whitetail hunt, then get in touch with me by my email, johnomchue@gmail.com. I'll send you all the details and you can come and hunt whitetail here on the ranch with me. We got everything. We got the blinds, we got the feeders. I personally prefer a little bit of walk and stalk hunting. So if you're looking to fill your freezer, or maybe you're looking to get the kiddos into hunting, maybe they can shoot their first doe or buck, this is the place to do it. We have only got a few limited spots available for the end of this year. So don't delay, get in touch with me today and we'll try and put together a really cool West Texas whitetail hunt for you guys. Okay, let's get back to that episode. Cheers, guys.
For me, that comes with experience.
Right.
And so that's hard to coach up the guy that hasn't really done a lot of hunts. Maybe we can have the conversation about something, a failure in life or a disappointment in life, and try to relate it to somehow prepare ourselves for a hunt that doesn't go as well as it should. Again, I think if you do the right preparation, you're less likely to be. But it can even be a plains game hunt like you're describing, where we're in the Eastern Cape hunting, and the guy gets a lot of nice animals, but he's really disappointed because he didn't get the one species he was really after. And I think that's more of the thing we can coach them up on and encourage them that, okay, so you didn't get a kudu or gemsbuck, whatever it was that you really had your heart set on. I understand, but let's focus on the positive. You got 6 or 8 or 10 other animals, and let's talk about the experience. What was your favorite one of those? And get that guy, and let's have that conversation, because I think it, like I said, I think it's from experience. You get to where you can handle that.
Yeah.
And so when I've got a big group in South Africa hunting, I am going to go over and console the guy that had the one getaway, or the guy in Zimbabwe that buffalo got wounded and got away, and just going to encourage them to keep going every day. And there's going to be some days when it's tough, but I think after things kind of settle down, they're going to say, that was a great experience.
Yeah.
I had the one little disappointment, but the rest of it was a great trip.
And how many times or how many stories have you heard guys say that they wounded an animal, which they obviously didn't like and they were feeling a bit anxious, but the way that the trackers went after it and the way that they followed blood, and they're absolutely amazed. And they tend to talk about that moment more than when they actually got the animal. It's those little moments in Africa that kind of make it so special.
We have had several of those, and of course I'm kind of trying to not show my cards, because I'm kind of giggling that, you messed that shot up, didn't you? Or maybe you didn't use the caliber I suggested and you got to track. But they're going on and on, just like you say, about how the trackers, okay, so we'd made a bad shot. Maybe our bullet selection, our caliber selection for that animal, maybe it wasn't as good as it could have been. And here we go. Whatever the scenario was. But then the trackers and the PH join up, have a conversation, get on the track. And it could be, even on a plains game deal, it could be hours of tracking something and looking for blood and getting the team together. And maybe you got a second tracker, or maybe you grabbed one of the skinners to come help and just look for blood or look for anything, just help us. And you may have 3 or 4 or 5 people there. And that experience, and then when you have your group and you do actually finally find that animal, it is exciting.
Yeah.
It is exciting. And they've forgotten about the bad shot or whatever it was. And I have had many of those stories around the campfire, and I've enjoyed those. And you don't want to ever burst that bubble. You want to just let it go. And then later on, days later, let's have this great celebration of the trackers.
Yeah.
Then days later, then let's talk about what did you do wrong.
Yeah, then you can reflect on your
But don't do it
mistakes.
right away.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I was here last week, and you hosted a fantastic day, this Friday. I'm not going to go too much into it because I want you to talk about it, but there was just one moment where we came back here to the lodge, and I said to you, what I just saw today was a PH's dream. Everybody practicing, everyone preparing, real life sort of scenarios on a safari, and I thought, these group of guys that were here, they're going to be okay on the trip. Like, they are going to have a great, successful time. So why don't you just tell everybody kind of what that day was about? Because I had a fantastic time.
Sure. Well, some of y'all that know me know that I work hard and I play hard and I try to do everything at a high level. And, I don't always succeed. I'm like anybody else. I have my shortcomings, but I love going on big hunts. I love going on safari. I love taking people with me. And I've been so fortunate for whatever reason, I am not a booking agent. I don't want to be a booking agent. I want to help any person who comes along to go to Africa, whether it's the first time or second time. It's more so the first timer kind of folks.
Yeah.
I want to give them the confidence to go to Africa with their own gun and their own stuff and have a great trip. I don't care who they hunt with, but I have had so much experience doing this. I know how to help the person get prepared so that they're comfortable. And I know this from the feedback I've gotten. I've taken scores and scores of people on safari with me. I don't know, it's probably pushing 100 different people I've taken on safari with me. But I decided, I don't know when it was, it's been a few years ago, I decided I've got a shooting range, but I also want to make another range. I was thinking, what can I do to help somebody prepare? So I've got my shooting range, which is quite extensive with gongs out to 800. And I thought, what else can we do? Okay, I've got a good sized ranch here, varied terrain. I said, all right, let's go up in the saddle of the hill and make what I call the high range. And we put some frames and some animal cutout gongs at odd distances. None of them are even 100, 150. They're all like 160, 320, 280. You know, they're oddball distances on purpose, and they're hidden in the brush. They're very difficult to see. And sometimes you actually have to show the people. I'm like, I try to get them to find them, but they're hidden pretty good. So I did that, and we organized a day, as you got to attend the other day, and just called it a safari day, field day, whatever you want to call it, safari prep. And so we'd meet at the range, shoot guns, shoot on paper, if we need to. I'm hoping most people are ready with that portion of it, but if so, fine. Let's shoot on paper. If we want to work on dialing, let's make sure we're programmed. And then shoot some gongs from you want to shoot them from the bench, you can, but then as quick as possible, get on some sticks, and let's shoot the 300 and 400, or even just the 150, what was that one? I got 150. Let's just shoot some 150, just a big gong at 150, just to work on the sticks, work on the being comfortable on sticks. And then let's try to shoot a 300. And then let's go to the high range and shoot the oddball animal cutouts. That poor little rabbit was it like 160 or something. It got hit by those 375s and 416s and got flung off of the frame, and we had to go get it and put it back on there. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to have fun, and also wanted to answer these two people's questions. So two things that I've come up with, because the groups are so big that go with me on some of these hunts, and we do it so routinely. One, I realized that I still have a ranch to run and a family to take care of. I realized I needed to have a better way of answering people's questions. So that's one reason I started the YouTube channel. So it's Philip Glass Safaris, and it's got a variety of things on there, but it's got some of these videos to help you pack and plan and prepare. That way I could answer more people's questions and less of my time, and I think that's been very well received. And then the other aspect to that was the field day. Having a field day in the summer, preferably a month before we go, if possible, at least several weeks before we go. And so this year, we have a group going to Zimbabwe in about a month, and then we had so many new people going to South Africa next year, we invited all of them. So we had a big group. But what I found is, if I get the people out, we shoot all morning, a lot of work on sticks. I like to have fun with them once I know they're comfortable and they're doing fairly well. And I like to kind of do the PH thing and yell at them and say, shoot him again, reload. And that's one of the things that when we came back to the guest lodge here, the trophy room, and had our Q&A and our wrap up. And the first thing I told them, if you'll recall, was y'all guys have got to get used to reloading and stay on the sticks, reload, and reacquire the target. Whether you shoot the second shot or not, you have to work on that. And that's one thing that oftentimes, and this group did need to work on. They need to work on reloading just instinctively without getting off the sticks and reacquiring the target. And either shooting or being prepared to shoot that second shot. That's one of the things we worked on. But anyway, we'd come back to the lodge, have lunch, and just have an afternoon Q&A. We would just talk about everything safari, from flights to packing to guns. One of the good things about it is that we get the people's gun problems figured out, because we try to put them in a real world scenario. We walk up to the range. They're supposed to have their ammo belt pouches, however they're carrying their ammo on the hunt. Practice reloading from your ammo belt or whatever you choose to use. One of them had a floor plate issue. He'd fire the gun and the floor plate would fall out of it. top brand gun, and I'm like, that one needs to go back to the manufacturer, but at the very least, it's got to go to a competent gunsmith. One guy, 2 weeks prior, with the 416, just the screws sheared off on his scope mount. And I'm like, and he was really tickled. He's like, well, I'm glad you told me to try to break it at home so we don't break it on the safari.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. That's a good point.
But I can tell you, Jono, the people who have taken the time to come out and do my field day have done way better on the hunt.
Yeah.
I mean, almost without exception, almost. Of course, you don't always hear the stories of wounding, but
Sure, yeah.
I mean, seriously, the people who've come here just done one day, because they've also done their own due diligence. They also gone to the range themselves and getting prepared. They have done so much better on the safari. I will continue to do this every year, and try to help people to do better. The people who have done the best are ones who took their own gun to Africa and came to my field day. The people who have done the worst, and this is, again, I'm telling you, it's on scores and scores of people. This is like lots and lots of people I've taken on safari. The ones who've done the worst, they rented a gun. I'm sorry to say, I know you can rent a gun, but I'm sorry to say that they have done the worst. I had one group in particular that the whole group borrowed guns, and they just all did poorly.
Yeah, yeah.
Wounded and lost on some. And so I want to encourage people to take their own gun. That's a big part of what I do, to explain to them it's not that hard. That's one of the things I really detest about Facebook is one person has one problem, and then they spout it to the entire world. It's where the worst advice comes. Verify your advice or know the person you're getting the advice from if it's on social media, because some of it is just, look for Jono, not for these other random yahoos. So again, the other day, a guy says he has a binocular stolen out of his suitcase.
Right.
Somewhere along the way. He doesn't know. Okay. That's 1 in 20,000.
Yeah.
30,000. Now people are going to, oh no, you got to put your binoculars in your carry-on. You can. That's fine if you want to. Go ahead. But because one person on Facebook, which is also known as the World Wide Web, with hundreds of millions of people, one person had a problem. Okay, he had a problem. Am I going to change the way I do things because I heard this one story? No, and I don't suggest anybody else do that. I suggest you talk to your outfitter or your friends who've gone before, or myself or John, or people that kind of know these things, and ask them questions. But yeah, that's one of the things that happened, and that's one of the reasons I have the field day, so I can talk to my people and try to give them my answers, and then let them continue to prepare.
Well, this is why that field day in person is so good, because when we were here and we were having lunch, we kind of had a Q&A session. Guys were asking questions on the back of someone else asking a question that got them thinking that they would never otherwise have thought to ask.
Right.
And everyone's talking and sharing ideas, and you did a fantastic breakdown of your locks and your bags and everything you pack, and I think you got a video coming out, so I highly recommend everybody to go and watch that. But when we were out in the field, there was two things that stood out to me. And I didn't say much. I'm always one of those guys that believes in you learn from listening. So I kind of just sit back. I like to watch and observe, and it was fantastic. And when we were at the range, I didn't catch the start of it. I kind of just heard the guys chatting. There was one guy that was on the sticks. It was those quad sticks.
The quad sticks.
And he was shooting, and he was chatting to his buddies, and he kind of said, but this thing's dialed in. I know it's dialed in. I've been on the bench. He usually gets a really nice tight group in, and I think he was kind of spraying all over the place here. And you came up to him and you said, yeah, but your barrel is on the front of the sticks. It wasn't positioned in there.
Yeah.
And he I think he's a first timer to Africa, so he didn't quite understand. And you said to him, put your sticks on the actual stock of the gun. And he shot,
bullseye,
and it was tied again.
Yeah.
But he would never have known those types of things. And in that little moment, that I guarantee you, now when he's out in the field and he's lining up that kudu, bushbuck, whatever it's going to be, he's going to make sure that gun is set properly on those sticks.
Yeah, because it was way off.
It was unbelievable, wasn't it?
And it was a carbon fiber barrel, which I thought maybe they wouldn't be as affected by the barrel touching something. But just from that barrel touching the front of those sticks, I can't remember. It was like 6 or 8 inches or something off. And it was terrible.
And they were talking about, pull the scope off. They were willing to strip
they
that
were
gun
panicking.
down.
And then he puts it right on there correctly, and I mean drills the bullseye.
Unbelievable.
And I was like, that was their problem.
Yeah. And then the other incident was after we shot at the range, we walked up to that saddle where you had all the different animals set up, And there was an older gentleman, I'd presume he's probably early 60s, but we walked up a hill. It wasn't top of a mountain, but it was something to just get your heart rate going. And when we got to the top, you kind of said, okay, guys, pick out your targets and shoot. And I remember what this gentleman said, oh, I can't, I've got to get my breath back. And he sat there and he waited for about 15, 20 minutes before he shot. And I thought, unfortunately, this is the game.
Yeah.
When you get out there, there's no, excuse me, Mr. Kudu, can you just hold on while I get my breath?
Yeah.
That's when you should be practicing.
Yes.
When you are tired and your heart is beating in your ears.
Yes.
And that's why the day that you had was fantastic.
Well, I always enjoy doing it, and it puts people in some real, semi-real scenarios. You know, you're shooting some gongs and climbing the hill, just a little bit of something to get your heart rate up and kind of. And it was such a nice day. We were so fortunate. We've had rain here in West Texas, and it hadn't been a blazing 105 degrees, so it was a great time, and I hope to continue to do that. But yeah, I just am going to continue to try to encourage people to go on safari and just try to answer their questions. And sometimes I may come off as a little rude online sometimes, but all I'm trying to do is tell people the truth from experience. And sometimes I might get a little sharp with somebody that's saying something, just because they're saying something that's wrong.
Right.
I don't need to be the guy that's always right, but I also really, really detest somebody who's trying to get ready for the first time and already has enough a stack of fears and concerns, and then to get bad advice from somebody. So I'm like, no, let's keep this simple. Follow my advice. Follow the advice of people who've gone a lot. We don't want to do the hero worship thing of the guy that's been one time and he knows it all and his pH is the best. And we all have a great experience in Africa, and we all want to come back and talk about it. But let's try to get some advice from people that have been a few times and know the area. And then the goal is simple. The goal is simple, is to get more people to go to Africa, have a great time, realize that there's just such a big world out there. And Africa is a big place. That's the other thing I get perturbed about online. They say, well, I'm going to Africa. What should I take with me on the hunt? Fella, Africa's a continent, not a country.
Yeah.
So we can make an assumption of where he's going, but I would rather him tell us. And even if he tells you the country, which part of the country?
Yeah. Because I've been banging my head against the wall for a long time now. There's videos like this, the videos you put out, there's podcasts, there's forums. The information is out there. And a lot of the times when you read a review that someone puts up, you can tell straight away, you did not do sufficient. And you're still getting a lot of reviews of people that end up with outfitters that, not necessarily the outfitters were bad, but that outfitter wasn't for that hunter, wasn't suited for that hunter. I've said this in the past, I was never a dangerous game outfitter. If someone contacted me and said, Jono, I want to go hunt a lion, I'll be cool. Here's the email address of this guy, he can help you out.
Right.
Go and do your research out there and find it out. And I think that's what you bring to the table is you have this extensive experience that if somebody would come to you and say, Philip, never been to Africa before, on a tight budget, these are the animals I want, you can say, that is where you're going to go.
Exactly, and I'm happy to do that. And as I've said before, they don't have to hunt with me. That's one reason I did the video series. It's not just about my group, it's about helping people, and I'm happy to, if people want to email me or something, I'm happy to answer their questions and try to direct them in the right way. And that is a good example of choosing an outfitter. You know, it's about matching up your expectations with what's out there, and there's a lot of them, and I just want to direct them to somebody that'll do a good job for them.
I got an email the other day from somebody that enjoys the podcast, and he said to me, well, when are you going back to South Africa? Because I'd like to hunt with you. And I said, well, I don't know. I don't know when I'm going to go back. And he said, well, I'm not going to Africa until you coming back and I'll hunt with you. And I said, well, if you can get me a green card, then we'll talk about it and we'll do something. But I said to him, even if I couldn't organize hunts anymore. I don't have my license in. So I just passed on to people that do it. But it is amazing how much trust people put in someone else to just say, tell me what to do. And you kind of can't do that. You've got to find out your own feet and do your own research. And as I said, there's lots of resources out there. And I mean, you've got, I think you're saying you've got a big trip to Pakistan coming up. What kind of research and things do you do for that?
Well, I'll tell you, the first thing I'm going to do if I'm going to go to some country like that is I'm going to do some research on the outfitters and talk to some friends who've done those type of hunts. And so I did those things. And then I'm going to be more confident to buy something from somebody who is an exhibitor at Safari Club International's convention in Nashville, because it is the big show. The people are highly vetted; those outfitters are highly vetted, and I'm going to have confidence that person's going to provide a good hunt and take care of you. And so one of the things I've learned going to Asia, because to me Asia is a little more scary than Africa.
Right.
A lot of people, Africa is scary. And that's fine. It's justifiably so in certain areas. You know, when I went to Cameroon, I chose to go with a booking agent that I knew well, and asked them a lot of questions before we chose the outfitter with their help, and made sure, and it was all seamless. I mean, just everything. There was a person to take care of me every step of the way. And so in Pakistan, I chose an outfitter who was at Safari Club International and was not somebody I knew. But they had a better offer for what I wanted to do. And so I asked a lot of questions. I did about 3 different outfitters. I'd already done some research for a few years, but I kind of drilled down and checked with 3. And some of this was ahead of time, before the show.
Yes,
before the Nashville convention in February. That's when I booked it, was in February. So I had started ahead of time, and thinking that I might take. I'm trying to finish the ibex of the world.
Right. Yeah.
And so one of them is the Sindh ibex in the Sindh Desert in Pakistan.
Okay.
And a very neat hunt, very neat animal, very exotic location. But this outfitter just happened to, check a lot of boxes for me. But one of the things is, if you're with a reputable outfitter, and if you've gotten that part right, you can go anywhere in the world and be safe and be well cared for. For some reason, in the hunting business, and I know you're going to hear the odd horror story, sure, but for the most part, you're paying a lot of money for some of these hunts. The people are going to take really good care of you. I mean, in Mongolia, they had a cook for me, and we're traveling from place to place, staying in tents, and then maybe the odd hotel, as we toured the country.
Right.
The one guy they had my own cook that was a chef from a restaurant.
Right,
I mean, from a hotel, sorry.
Yes, yep.
A hotel chef who came for part of my hunt to cook for me. And he did. He cooked on with a campfire with a little propane stove, and eating on the tailgate of the truck like gourmet meals.
Oh, nice.
But I mean, you got to look at how much you're paying for that hunt. I guess you deserve to be treated that way. But as far as the safety is concerned, I believe that on most of these reputable outfitters, there's no concern. The area I'm going in Pakistan is not a hot area. All that's in the way north, far, far from me.
Right.
I'm in the south, in the desert, not far from the airport. Like, I'll be within 3 hours of the airport where I'm hunting. So none of those concerns, and they all tell me that it's some of the best hunting in Asia. Actually, a huge variety of animals. You could do 2 different safaris there.
Oh,
2
nice.
different hunts.
Yeah.
You could do, they call it the jungle, but it's more of the forested area with the nilgai and blackbuck and axis, which would be cool.
Oh, that would be cool.
But that's kind of like a separate hunt. And then you've got all the sheep and goats in the various mountainous areas. And so there's 2 areas, well, more than 2, but kind of 2 different terrain types there. And so anyway, I'm looking forward to it, but I have no issues. It is a hunt that I really detest the fact that I'm not taking a rifle.
Okay.
They said you can take a rifle. It'll cost you 2 days and $2,000.
Ooh.
Because you cannot fly into the airport I'm flying into. You have to fly into the Capitol.
Right.
No exceptions.
Yep.
They can only clear the gun at the Capitol, which is not where I'm going, and it's a huge complication with another flight and an overnight and a domestic flight. And he said we can do it, but it's just such a problem. And the U.S. outfitter has his own guns there, his guns.
Okay. Right.
And so we talked about it, and I don't like that. But 2 days and $2,000, I'm like, okay, I can understand where you're coming from. He said, just please trust me. He said, I'm going to have Swarovski scopes and high quality rifles that you're going to be very familiar with. And we talked about all of that and said, okay. So I'm going to Pakistan and it's a fairly short hunt. I'm hunting 2 gazelles and the Sindh ibex.
Okay.
But it's all in that desert area.
Yes.
So not far to travel between the areas.
Right.
But I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, that's pretty exotic, and I know people find that interesting, and I certainly find it interesting to get to go and try something different. But I'm still not going to hang around too long. I'm going to go hunt and go home.
I don't blame you. Well, hopefully you can send through some trophy photos and
Yes.
it's a success when it is.
I sure hope so. I'm looking forward. But that's going to be in December. That's you know, you try to, again, talking about the time of when you should go on a hunt, go with their advice. I mean, we're hunting ibex. What's the best time? This is what they've suggested. And there's some variability. It's November, December, basically.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
you know, you're still in part of the rut in that area. I think some of that is like December, January.
Okay.
Some of that, the ideal time. And so I'm going early December, so it doesn't affect Christmas. Don't worry, Jennifer. I'm going to be home for Christmas.
It's important. It's an important time of year. I've always said you got to keep the wife happy if you want to hunt more.
That's right. That's right. That's my goal.
And then your trip to Zimbabwe, what plans have you got for that? Because you are going with the group. Any other animals you specifically targeting, or is it more just a case of enjoying it and spending time with the group?
A little bit of both. I'm going after a buffalo, which I'm one of those people that's the typical guy that says, I just need a buffalo to hunt the big five and I'll be fine. No, it gets in your blood, especially tracking buffalo in the Zambezi Valley is something that is truly addictive. I mean, it's truly addictive, especially when you have the pleasure of doing it like I get to do with a double rifle in that thick chest.
Yeah, yeah.
It is a very special hunt. And so I have actually not gotten a buffalo the last couple of times. One, because Jasper's buffalo hunt in 2024 was such we hit a limb or something and wounded that thing and tracked him for 52 miles over 7 days and just ran out of time for me to hunt buffalo. And then the leopard too. When I shot that last leopard, I was actually hunting. I had buffalo quota for myself,
right, okay, yeah.
but didn't have time because we had so much hard luck with the leopard. And so I haven't got a buffalo in a few years. And then like the elephant hunt in April, I wasn't hunting buffalo.
Okay.
I didn't have any quota for myself on that one, and nor would I have. I was dedicated to one thing. So we're going to hope for a good buffalo, and then we're going to hope for a eland tag.
Okay, yes.
The quotas are very tight in those areas. There's plenty of them there, but the quota's pretty tight. So we're hoping that there's one. That would be a big goal for me. I've not gotten one in Zimbabwe. And then just after that, just looking for a big kudu.
Yeah, okay.
Just going out, enjoying our time. If I was able to do that, I'd be really happy. And then just spend the rest of the time looking for a big kudu. If a hyena comes up, I'd like to shoot a hyena.
Right, yeah.
Shoot a bigger one than I shot before. I would like to do that. And so pretty short list, but yeah, for me, there's 4 plus me, so 5 of us in that group. Mostly hunting buffalo, a few doing a little different stuff like hippo croc. And so it's going to be a lot of fun, and that's coming up real quick.
Yeah. Well, looking at the space that's left on the wall, I think you're going to have to start targeting the small stuff because there's not much space for a lot of the big things up here.
Pretty much just skulls going forward. I don't know where we'd put another eland on the wall.
See that. But the group of guys that were here on the safari day, the ones that you're going with, they seemed like a really nice bunch of guys too. And one of the things that I picked up from them is that they were very open to the idea of opportunities of different animals popping up. You know, it's one of the questions that one of the guys said is that how flexible are we in terms of we've got a package, but what if I want something else? And I think one of the guys said, how much is this you got to take Africa, what throws at you, or how is it that some animals just pop out? And I thought that was quite an interesting question for them to ask.
Yeah, and thankfully so, because when you're going to somewhere like the Zambezi Valley, you may have your heart set on something, but it may just be hard to find. I mean, there's been days when I never saw a kudu day after day after day. And one day we saw 11 bulls in one herd.
Unbelievable.
And so you just never know.
Yeah.
But one thing you will find a lot of there is going to be like impala, bushbuck, waterbuck. Those you're going to probably see every day. I mean, there's going to be probably a lot of buffalo, at least fresh sign. But then kudu pretty regular. And so, yeah, you got to be a little flexible. And then on those kind of hunts, you just need to kind of know which animals are available on quota.
Yeah.
Because a lot of your normal plains game is fine. You can just shoot one if you see one. You know, bushbuck, there's plenty of quota. Impala, obviously, that sort of thing. But then you get into stuff like eland and cats and buffalo. Of course, that's all got to be planned ahead of time.
Yeah, yeah, which is where this kind of grey, murky area comes, where people say you got to take the opportunities that Africa throw at you. But then there are some animals where there is permitting required, there is licensing required, and I think the first timers generally don't understand that, which again is why it's important to ask questions, especially with your outfitter.
Well, and talking about expectations, when you go from a well-managed game farm in South Africa where you can realistically shoot an animal a day, if you were to be really lucky, you could maybe shoot 2 animals a day. That's a possibility, and that would be pretty typical, at least 1 a day, as long as everything's working well and you're shooting well and able to go where you need to go. In Zimbabwe, it's going to be more like 2 or 3 days, even just plains game. You know, I would tell them, I said probably 3 days for 1 animal.
Yeah.
Because that just may be the way it is. You may see some, they get off in that thick jess and you don't see them again.
That's it.
And so then what?
Yeah.
And then you might have the day. We will have our groups in Zimbabwe. There will be a few times where somebody will get 2 animals in a day. I remember one time this one guy hunting with me, he shot his buffalo as the sun was barely cracking on day 1, and he could have shot a bull hippo on land before noon.
Wow.
And the PH actually pulled him off of the hippo. He said, you know, because they're right by the river and the lake and stuff.
Yeah,
and he's like, you know, we don't have to shoot that today. But they could have literally finished his 2 main animals before noon on the first day.
Yep.
But that's the thing, it's hunting. You can struggle the whole time, you can strike out, and you can have one of those days like this fella had where before noon he could have been finished and then just, you know, looking for a big kudu or just kind of having fun.
Yeah.
And so you just never know, but that's why we do it. That's why we go, because it's a little bit of the unknown and just enjoying yourself.
Yeah, that is true. I don't want to take up too much time because I know you got a lot of ranch work to do and things, but I kind of want to touch on your involvement in SCI and the work you guys do here, because we went to the banquet in San Angelo and it was absolutely incredible. And I know you're very much involved in it. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about that, because the San Angelo chapter has been doing incredible work the past couple of years, haven't they?
We have, and it is one of the things that I really enjoy doing. We have, as far as just starting at the chapter level, we have a chapter. Safari Club International has 160 plus chapters all over the world right now. A chapter is just as you'd imagine, it's a club that is a smaller, independent chapter of Safari Club International. And so how that operates is we have a board. We can have multiple fundraisers per year, but our primary fundraiser, 30% of our net profit is our dues to SCI. So our big banquet, we figure it up after it's over, and we figure up what our amount is, and that's our dues, so to speak. We are, again, like I said, we are very fortunate to have a really intelligent, really active, hardworking board. Our assistant to the president of our board, Erica, works very hard and does a lot to facilitate a lot of our events. And we have really achieved a very high level. We're the #1 501c4 in the world in terms of fundraising to SCI. You know, San Angelo is just a city of 100,000 people, but we're right there at the top. And what that does for us, it gives us a little bit of bragging rights, I guess, but the main thing is it gives us this money. That 30% is one thing. The other 70% of the net profit is ours, and we are in our grant funding season right now. So primarily August, but is when most of our grants are funded. We do a variety of things, from big conservation projects here. We're doing a mountain lion study with the Safari Club International Foundation. We're doing humanitarian work with the Safari Club Blue Bag program. We are doing local projects with things like the Children's Advocacy Center, all the Texas Wildlife Youth Hunting programs. We have our own Pathfinder Youth Hunting program for disadvantaged children. I mean, I could go on. It's quite a variety. But we are in that cycle right now, and so we work really hard. We ask a lot of our community and our members to come to our banquet. It's not an inexpensive event. It's a very nice event, a very upscale event. We do it the first Saturday of March in San Angelo. And we have big sponsorships. We work really hard with all of that, put on a nice meal, have a great time, do some fun raffles and that sort of thing. But then we make that money, and now we get to take that money and do a lot of good with it. So it's been a lot of fun for me. I've been on our board for a long time, and I'm now in my second term as Director at Large for Safari Club International. So I'm on the main board with Safari Club International and serving on various committees there, and just really enjoy it. One neat thing about being involved in Safari Club International is the people you get to meet, because we all have this thing we have in common with hunting and the outdoors. But I mean, people from all over. You know, we had our meeting in Washington, D.C. in May, and of course, some of them, my new friends with Safari Club are, you know, they're from up north. You know, we always like to say, well, just a bunch of Yankees from up there up north, but some dear friends. And then we had some of the guys from like Pakistan,
Right. Yep.
and Europe, and this is the case at any event, not just one meeting.
Sure, yeah.
At any of our events, it's like that. We have people from all over the United States. We have people from all over the world, and we all come together for one cause. And it's just it's been a real pleasure at this time in my life to be able to serve with Safari Club International and to do all the good that we're doing. We really are growing. Our membership is growing. Safari Club has, just a real quick plug, Safari Club is the biggest hunter advocacy organization in the world. We are in Washington, D.C. We have our own office. We have 8 full-time attorneys on our staff. We are in the fight for anything to do with hunting and conservation, hunters' rights, wildlife issues, hunting issues on the western states, you know, all these land access issues. Big fights in places like Alaska, big fights over trophy imports, but the majority of what we do is U.S., North America based.
Yeah.
Most of the money is spent, but we have 8 attorneys. That's one thing that sets us apart. We're able to be effective, be in a state where there's an issue.
Yeah.
We can go in the state and help there, along with the chapters of those states can, you know, work together with our staff. So there's just a lot going on with Safari Club. We did a lot of conservation projects. We also put on a heck of a party in Nashville, so y'all come. It's in January next year.
Yeah, I've definitely got that on my bucket list, and I know a lot of people have asked when I'm going to be getting to the shows, and I can't wait. That'll be incredible.
It is quite something to see. You know, there's like 1,000 exhibitor booths, and it's kind of hard to describe unless you've been there. I mean, even if you've been to other hunting shows, and they're all fun, and I go to all of them and I enjoy them, but it's really will blow your mind, the different things there. We've got, you know, local people that are in the deer hunting business and exotics hunting business and mountain lion hunting business, and then we've got people from, like we were talking about, from Pakistan.
Yeah, yeah.
And Mongolia and Europe and just fill in the blank. Everywhere in the world where there's hunting or fishing, they're going to have that represented at the big event. But I definitely encourage people to go, but you don't want to wait. You want to be making your plans pretty soon.
Yes.
Nashville is a very welcoming city. It's a very safe city. The convention center is surrounded by hotels of various kinds and various price levels, all within walking distance. You have a lot of variety there. You're within walking distance of Broadway, so if you want to go listen to good country music, it's like 3 blocks.
Oh, cool.
If that.
Yeah.
And it's right there.
That's amazing.
We have just so much that's going on right there together, but very welcoming city. Tennessee has been very welcome to the Safari Club. We have broken every record, everything you can measure, every year we've been in Nashville consistently.
That's incredible.
And you think, you know, after a while, kind of the bubble bursts and it kind of comes off. Attendance, auction income, auction percentage to retail, just anything you can measure has gone up every year.
Right.
So we've been very successful moving out of Nevada, which was our home for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just nothing else you can say about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to go to Las Vegas and go to the buffet, but you know, we're just not going to do that anymore. We're going to go to Nashville and go to Broadway.
Small sacrifices you got to make. It's encouraging to see, it really is, to see all the hunters coming together. And I know a lot of the times for the guys that have been to Africa and met up with their PHs and outfitters, this is a great opportunity to do it. And a lot of the times they're not even there for anything else but to meet the guys. But just the fact that it's a place to come together is incredible.
It is such a unique spot. You know, we've been talking about people booking a hunt, preparing for their first hunt, first big overseas hunt primarily is what we're talking about. But being able to go to Safari Club's big convention and go sit down with the people, it does make a difference. That's not all of your due diligence, that's just one aspect, but it really does matter to get to know the people, and that's the place to do it. But I tell you, you need to come early. It's very busy. A lot of people have the same idea. And so I encourage people to come, get the whole 4-day pass and come. You do have to be a member of Safari Club International to attend convention, and some people grumble about that, but we're like, we want to all be working together for
Yes.
conservation.
Yep.
So just please pay your membership, and you can pay your membership in person when you're there if you have failed to do so. But you can do that. But we want everybody to join together in the name of conservation and wildlife and wild places, and that is one thing we don't apologize for. We do want you to be a member.
Yeah.
But come and register and get a hotel, get plans made, but that's in January 2027.
Well, I'll definitely making plans to try and be there for sure, because I don't want to miss out on this one. But before we kind of start closing up, because as I said, I don't want to take up too much of your time, I want to encourage anybody that's listening to please head on over to Philip's YouTube channel, put out some incredible content there, lots of good information, and reach out when you can. Like Philip was saying, I think for myself and anybody else that does this stuff, you do want to encourage people to go to Africa as much as possible, because you will have an incredible time. I've been fortunate through this podcast to interview a lot of people that have been there for the first time, and it blows their minds. And everybody says the same thing. When I was on that plane, all I could think about was, how do I get back? So please reach out to Philip, get in contact with him, ask questions. He's wonderful place that he's got you, does as much as he can, and I'm sure he'll be happy to help you out. From my side, this has been such a surreal podcast, because from where we've come, Philip, to now almost being neighbors, you've been extremely gracious host. Thank you for hosting me, my family, and having us here a couple of weeks ago. It means a lot, and I think just the fact that you're close by is really cool, and I'm thankful for that.
Well, absolutely. We enjoy having you. We'll have to have the whole family over and have a braai again and throw some lamb chops on and get together and do this again, because anytime I can help in any way to get people to go to Africa and give them some confidence to go and enjoy this thing that we love, I'm going to stop what I'm going to do it, and we're going to do it.
Well, Philip, thank you very much for being on the podcast, and I wish you all the best of your success, and hope to see some trophy photos.
Thanks, John. Let's just let it keep raining so we can keep doing stuff like this.
Definitely. Thanks very much.